Hi, welcome back to the Deadly Affirmations video book. Today we're going to begin chapter 2, and you'll get to know Patience Murphy a little bit better, and you'll be glad that you did. So if you're ready, sit back, relax, and give it a listen. Here we go. Chapter 2, Make a Big Leap. Patience woke up early Wednesday morning. The sun was shining through the pure white cotton and tulle drapes embroidered with delicate silk flowers that framed her bedroom windows, and Patience sat up in bed and stretched. Her little kitten, well, he had been little and a kitten when she had first met him, Abraxas. Sometimes he was heavenly, sometimes he was devilish, scampered off the bed in a soaring leap, anticipating his breakfast. She felt better than she had in a long time. She reached over to the bedside table, grabbed the book she had bought yesterday, 20 Days, and opened it to the second chapter. Old heartaches, fears, and negative emotions can vanish and be transformed into things more useful if you are ready and willing to move past those old obstacles to your happiness. Since you're reading this book, you've already made the decision to make a change. If you think back, you've probably tried something new in the past few days that the old you would never have done. Congratulations. Your baby step was the beginning. Now you can soar over any hurdle that life puts in your path. Wow, Patience thought, and closed the book, replacing it on the little table next to her glass of water. She took the glass and lifted it to her lips, emptying it in one gulp. Before she would leave her bed, Patience decided to inaugurate another new part of her daily routine. She would choose a card from the box of affirmations and read it, once to herself, and then 3 times aloud. She would see her message, hear it, and speak it. She would think deeply about each day's new tidings, focus on them, and make them part of herself. Okay, she whispered to herself. She took the lid off the little box, closed her eyes, and ran her fingers gently over the top edges of the cards, trying to feel the one that was reaching for her today. There. She moved her hand back until she felt a single card that felt different somehow. Yes, that was the one. She took the card and opened her eyes, bringing the card close to her face. It was a message just for her. She read it silently, and then she read it aloud for the first time. She heard herself speak the words that she would consider today, reflecting on them and letting them offer her life purpose and intention. Number 43. I love meeting people and approach them with boldness and enthusiasm. Patience put the card on the bedside table, hopped out of bed, and almost skipped to the kitchen to put a scoop of chow in Abraxas' dish. She could hear him mewing as her feet hit the floor. After Abraxas was busy eating, Patience was about to see to her own breakfast. Then she noticed that the clock on the wall above the tiny little dry sink, it said 9:30. It couldn't be 9:30. She was so late. She walked to the phone on the wall just to the right of the clock and dialed work. The phone rang twice, and Julie, the receptionist, answered it. Good morning, Thorough Solutions. Before Julie could say another word of greeting or ask where her call could be directed, Patience blurted out, Julie, it's Patience. I've overslept. I've got to take a quick shower and put on some clothes, but I should be in an hour or so. Patience could hear Julie smirk over the phone. I'll tell Robbie that you're on your way. Too much wild sex last night, huh? Before you throw that hunky man out of your bed, give him my number. I'll see you when you get here. Thanks, Julie, Patience said, pointedly ignoring Julie's vivid imagination. See you soon. Patience showered, brushed her teeth, brushed her hair, and put on her makeup. She went to the closet and picked out a navy blue skirt, a pretty light blue Liberty blouse sprinkled with little bouquets of violets, and a pair of matching navy flats. She grabbed her purse and went back to the kitchen. She made sure that Abraxas' water dish was full and then grabbed an apple from the bowl on the counter for herself. She took the keys out of the key dish, opened the back door, closed and locked it, and hurried to the garage. She pushed the button on her key fob to open the garage door, went into the garage, making a mental note to clean this mess up this weekend, got into her little Toyota and started the engine. She took a bite of the apple and placed the apple on the console tray, turned around to look behind her and backed out. When the car was clear, she pressed the button on the fob again and the garage door closed. She was late, but the route to work in River City was one continuous speed trap. She had learned that the hard way about 3 years ago when she had earned 3 speeding tickets, 25 and a 15, 40 and a 30, and 30 and a 20. She was only going 22 and fought that one and won when the cop never showed up to court in 3 weeks. Now she was very, very careful. And besides, she felt so good with her daily affirmations and her journey to a happier her that she took her time. Besides, she was in no hurry to see Robbie, her new boss, and endure whatever verbal abuse he was sure to heap on her. Patience pulled into the parking garage in the basement of the building where Thorough Solutions occupied the 3rd floor. TS didn't offer reserved parking spaces for its workers, so Patience had to drive around for about 10 minutes before she found an empty space in the back. Squinched between a concrete pillar and a metal door that led to boilers and heating and air conditioning ducts and mysterious electrical equipment. The space was too small for most cars to fit in, and Patience had to pull in twice before she was able to maneuver her car so that she could open the driver's door enough for her to squeeze out. She walked over to the elevator, pushed the up button, and waited, and waited, and waited. This was taking way too long. So she turned to the door to the stairs and hurried up 3 flights. She got to the 3rd floor and hurried to the ladies' room to put herself in order before she walked into the office. After 5 minutes of furious primping, Patience walked out of the ladies' room, pushed open the glass doors that afforded entry to Thorough Solutions. "When you've got a question, we've got the answer," and waved to Julie at the receptionist's desk as she sauntered back to her cubicle, which sat, unfortunately, just outside Robbie Daniels' office, the office that should have been hers. She sat down at her desk and reached for the pile of files that awaited her attention. They required only a minor reshuffling to put them in the order in which she would attack them. Patience reached for her coffee cup and stood to head over to the coffee pot in the break room to fill it full of its energizing nectar. "Well, it's about time, Murphy." She stopped when she heard Robbie Daniels' strident, self-important rasp. "Forgot to take the whole day off?" Robbie's near shout made sure that his voice carried to every corner of the office, so that everyone would know that she was late and that he was the boss. "I overslept, Robbie," Patience said softly, briefly turning to face him before resuming her walk to the coffee. "That's Mr. Daniels, Murphy, and don't walk away when I'm talking to you," her new boss ordered her. Patience stopped and turned to face her tormentor. "Yes, Mr. Daniels?" Robbie let her turn back to him, waited 30 long seconds, nodded, and said, "That's more like it, Murphy. Send me that report by noon today so that I know what the client expects in the proposal, and don't be late again. You've been warned," before turning away from her, walking back to his office, and slamming the door. Patience felt like Robbie's slamming door had slapped her in the face. She felt a tear building, ready to cry, but pushed back the hurt and concentrated on her coffee. She had to get that report to Robbie in an hour. Damn! Patience got back to her desk without spilling her coffee and got right to work. She had researched the report, suggested it to their previous boss, written it, proofread it, and edited it. It was her baby, a baby that Robbie was going to steal away from her and credit as his own. Patience knew this and hated it, but what could she do? TS hadn't made her boss. TS had given that plum to Robbie. At 5 minutes to 12, Patience knocked on Robbie's door, report in hand. A full minute later, she heard Robbie's stentorian voice shout, "It's open! Come in!" Patience opened the door and walked in. Robbie had replaced Mr. Sterling's functional glass and chrome campaign-style desk with a massive dark oak behemoth that must have been 7 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and 3 feet tall. Robbie's new dark leather chair, more like a throne, allowed him to sit above Patience and look down on her as she stood, papers in hand, like a supplicant before an Ottoman pasha. "Well, it's about time, Murphy," he thundered. "I hope you didn't make your usual mistakes. Put it on the desk and get back to work." Patience placed the 2 typed pages on the edge of the monumental piece of office furniture. She turned to leave the office, but before she got to the door, Robbie blared, "And you'll be making up the time you missed this morning before you go home tonight." As she turned the knob to open the office door, Patience said in a small voice, "Yes, sir, Mr. Daniels." Patience took 45 minutes for her lunch hour at the Starbucks on the 1st floor of the office building and worked steadily until 5. That was quitting time for the office, and everyone cleared out to get back to their lives by 5:15. Patience kept working. At 7:30, she arranged the last of the files she had finished for the day in one pile and made another pile of files for tomorrow that she put next to it. She logged off to her computer, locked her desk, and straightened the pens and pencils and papers that cluttered her workspace throughout the day. When it was reorganized to her satisfaction, she stood up and walked to the elevator and pushed the button. Thankfully, it was working now, and she didn't have the energy to take the stairs. When the big metal door opened, she walked in and pressed the button for the garage. 20 seconds later, the door opened again, and Patience found herself in a nearly empty parking garage. There was her car, way off in the corner, a very, very new, luxurious import 3 spaces from the elevator, and behind a pillar in the middle of the great concrete space, a recent SUV, mud splattered around the wheel wells. Patience walked toward her car, and when she was about halfway across the garage, she heard a metal door behind her, and seconds later, she heard Robbie's panting voice yelling, "Murphy! Murphy!